Good morning, my dear students. I hope you are well today and safe. We have reading one course. Today we have lesson 2, and we move to the next point. We have reading 8. Reading 8 is about dwelling problems or rent for elderly people. Let's begin by reading the passage. To the editor, your article on plans for aiding the elderly to pay their housing costs was not quite clear in several aspects. I would like to clarify the requirements and exemption available for those who qualify. In the first place, a tenant 62 years old or older must live in a rent-controlled or rent-stabilized dwelling, pay more than 1/3 of his or her income for rent, and have a yearly income of $8,000 or less. Such a tenant must reapply each year thereafter. Once is not enough. It is understood, however, that should the landlord make a major improvement, a new furnace, for example, all tenants must accept rent raise to pay for the increased comfort. The elderly poor tenant is not excluded from such a rent increase. Landlords receive tax exemption as a reimbursement for the money they lose in not increasing rent for the elderly. In New York City, the cost of these tax reductions is $41 million a year. Tremendous figure, but likely to be higher if more of the poor elderly learn they may apply for exemptions. The city is so slow in processing applications that some tenants have paid the full rent. They ought not to have done so. They are fully protected by the law, and once they have applied for exemption, they do not have to pay rent increases. I appeal to you to clarify this issue so that the elderly poor of our city may become aware of the housing benefits for which they qualify. Right, this is the end of reading 8. Now, before we go to the questions, before we go to answer the questions, I just would like to remind you that you have to read the passage at least twice so that you can have a good idea about the topic, about the details, and about certain restrictions of the passage. Now we move to the questions. We have part A and part B. Part A, we have here detailed comprehension. Answer the questions according to the information given in the reading. Now we have 4 choices, multiple choices. We have to choose either 1, B, C, or D. This letter was written to. You can choose 1, just 1. We can, return to the answers later on. Question number 2. You can probably believe in the authenticity of this information, because A, once something is in print, it has to be true. B, the information is common knowledge. C, the elderly deserve to be relieved from the burden of rent increase. D, the writer is an employee of a government housing agency. Question number 3. List the requirements to qualify for exemption from rent increases. So you have to, in order to answer the question, you have to return to the second paragraph to find the answer. And we have 4 requirements. You can write the requirements in the passage here. We have the answers to the first 3 questions. Question number 1, the answer is C. Number 2, D. And number 3, we have the requirements. A tenant 62 years old or older must live in a rent-controlled or rent-stabilized dwelling. B, pay more than 1/3 of his or her income for rent. C, have a yearly income of $8,000 or less. D, a tenant must reapply each year for thereafter. We have the next questions. True or false? Once a person qualifies for the exemption, he or she will continue to be exempt if the his application is renewed annually. Number 5, would an unemployed woman 65 years old with an income of $6,000 in Social Security and $3,000 in aid from her children qualify for exemption from rent increases? A, possibly, but more information is needed. B, definitely. C, never. D, maybe next year she would qualify, but not this year. Number 6, when a landlord air conditions an apartment building, he can then raise the tenant's rent. B, he has improved his property and must bear the expense himself. C, he can take the cost of his income tax. D, his tenants are poor and elderly. Number 7, New York City provides the following to landlords who do not increase rent for the elderly. A list of restrictions. B, $41 million a year in cash refunds. C, an amount equal to the rent increases and tax exemptions. D, higher prices for improving their buildings. Number 8, elderly tenants who qualify for exemptions from rent increases have nevertheless paid rent increases because A, they have the necessary income. B, they are old and ignorant. C, their applications are not processed quickly. D, the law does not protect them. Now we have the answers to questions 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We have question number 1, true. Question number, question number 4 true. Question number 5 is C. Question number 6 A. Number 7 C. And number 8 C. Number 9. Why the knowledge of this plan to help the elderly well? A. Raise rents. B. Lower taxes. C. Cost the city less. D. None of the above. Question number 10. The author of this letter is A. Poor and elderly herself. B. Concerned for the elderly. C. A very callous person. D. Not very sympathetic toward landlords. Question number 11. The word clarify is related to the word A. Classic, B. Classify, C. Clash, D. Clear. Question number 12. The word ought is the same as A. May, B. Can, C. Should, and D. Might. Number 13. A furnace is considered a major improvement because A. It is hot. 2. Or B. Landlords have no or to provide that or heat. C. It is expensive to buy. D. It increases the rent. Now we have the answers to questions 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. The answer to question 9 is D. The answer to question 10 is B. The answer to question 11 is D. The answer to question 12 is C. And finally, the answer to question 13 is C. All right, now we move to the next part, part B, vocabulary work. We are concerned about finding the meaning of words, the underlined words in each sentence by understanding the context. Getting the word meaning from context. It shows the correct meaning of the underlined word. Number 1. Tenants over 62 can apply for benefits at the Office of Housing for the Elderly. Which one? We have A. Poor, B. People over 62, C. People who need aid, D. People who need housing. Question number 2. If you don't get the furnace prepared before winter, we will freeze to death. The meaning of furnace means A. Fire escape, B. Heater, C. Water container, and D. Staircase. Question number 3. Since landlords get reimbursement for rent raises for the elderly, they shouldn't complain about losing money. A. Bills, B. Increases, C. Payments, D. Housing benefits. Question number 4, we have the elderly are not excluded from rent raises that all tenants have to pay when the landlord makes a major improvement. Excluded here means A. Obliged, B. Included, C. Excited. D. Eliminated. Question number 5. When their rent increased from $200 to $400 a month, they protested against such a tremendous increase. A tremendous means A. Light, B. Difficult, C. Huge, and D. Tiring. Now let's look for the answers of the questions. Question number 1, A. Number 2, B. Question number 3, C. Number 4, we have D. And number 5, we have D. We have the next 3 questions. Because the city is so slow in processing applications, many of the elderly do not get housing benefits. Processing means A. Providing, B. Working on, C. Raising, and D. Trying. The landlord notified his tenants that their rent would be increased the following month. Tenants means A. Janitors, B. Friends, C. Occupants, D. Poor people. Number 8. Reading a daily newspaper will make you aware of what is going on in the world. Aware means A. Knowledgeable, B. Ignorant, C. Alike, and D. Dependent. Now we have the answers. Question number 6, B. Question number 7, C. And question number 8, A. Alright, this is the end of this lesson. If you have any questions, please let me know, and advise you to read more online and offline. You can read online on any site you like. You can read many things. You can read sports news. You can read political news, economic news, and so on. This will, of course, improve your understanding and improve your reading skills and speed. You will like reading, and your reading will improve definitely. All right, thank you for the moment, and goodbye. See you next lesson.